Welcome to Rawsome Parents, the podcast where parenting gets real, raw, and awesome. Parenting is messy, magical, and transformational. So whether you're navigating new parenthood, single parenting, co-parenting, or rediscovering yourself after the kids have moved out, you are not alone. Here we share raw truths, heartfelt stories, and playful conversations with parents and experts, because suffering is optional, and together we can lead with love, heal what holds us back, and create lives full of fun and integrity for ourselves and our kids. So grab a coffee, hit subscribe, and join us on this wild ride. Let's get raw and awesome. And welcome back to another episode, the very first episode, the reboot of the Rawsome Parent with me, Shaun Tucker. And I'm delighted to welcome a lovely lady all the way from Cairns in Australia, Zolita.
Hey.
Zolita, how are you doing today?
Yeah, good. How are you?
Yes, I'm actually really amazing because, the relaunch of this show means that I get to have more intentional conversations with people who are already creating large levels of impact on the world. So I'm no better, not in a better place. I'm right here, right now.
Amazing.
So, Zolita, I'd love to actually start with you giving a little bit of an introduction of yourself. So, who are you? What do you do? And what is let's start there. Who are you and what do you do?
Okay, so my name is Zolita. I am a single mum. I am a registered nurse, a psychic medium, tarot reader, and a breathwork facilitator. And what I do is I help people heal and I help them through their dark nights of the soul and bring them into the light.
Yeah, I love that so much. So thank you for that little intro. I mean, where to start other than let's go back to you're a single mum.
Yep.
You're a mother of 2 kids, is that right?
3.
3 kids. Wow.
Yeah.
There's another one that I didn't even consider. I don't know why I had the number 2 in my head, but 3 kids. Let's go back to the beginning, right? So I imagine where you are now is a lot more further leveled up or down the pathway of where you first started. So let's go back there. Like what was the initial stumbling, I guess, because everyone tells you what parenthood's going to be like, but how do we get here? I'd love to start there. How do we get here?
Well, how did I become a parent?
Yeah.
So my story might be a little bit different. So I was actually diagnosed with not hereditary spherocytosis, but endometriosis. And it was quite severe to the point where the doctors told me at the age of 16 that if I want kids, I have to have them early. So that's initially why I became a young mum. But I also became a mum because I wanted to give birth to something and someone amazing, and I wanted to be able to love them, guide them, teach them, and go through all the mess with them, all the goods and the bads. Yeah.
Wow. So the motivation, I guess, was brought forward for you because of the diagnosis and the uncertainty of whether you could have children later on.
Yes. Yep.
I'm sure that anyone who's listening, I guess we're all forms of parents, right? Even if we don't have children, like biological kids that we have.
Yep.
And one of the things that I try to instill in myself is like being a mother to life, essentially, like just nurturing all the life around me.
Yeah.
Because what better way to give than to nurture it, right?
Yeah.
Because it can only give back what it's received.
Amen to that. I think the other push for me to be a mum was that my mum left when I was very young, so I didn't know what that was like to have that motherly love and the touch. So I think that's also a massive positive for me to wanting to become a parent as well.
Yeah. And I'm sure that you've had your tests, your trials and your tribulations, right?
Definitely.
Because I remember having a conversation with you off air, even just talking about parenthood and that kind of thing. It's like everyone tells you what it's going to be like. You have to experience it for yourself. Like you're literally throwing yourself in the deep end. Suddenly, well, you've been through it 3 times, but the very first time, it's like you've got this kid who's decided to come through you.
Yep.
Next moment, they come out, and suddenly this life is one. It was still dependent on you when it was still inside you, right? But now that it's outside of you, it's like even more dependent on you.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Its level of survival comes from you. Its level of safety comes from you.
Yep.
And facilitating an environment where it can grow, it comes from you guys, right?
It does. It does.
How was that experience for you of like, holy shit, what have I done?
The moment I found out, like, oh shit, I got to take this baby home with me. It was a
Yep.
real hit and a real realization. So going back, when I gave birth to my eldest daughter, a lot of women don't talk about this, but I end up getting postpartum depression, and some mums actually don't connect with their children after giving birth. So unfortunately, that was the case for me. I didn't connect straight away as what I thought I did. But when my daughter, so she ended up getting severely sick and getting jaundice. So she actually had to go to the sick. It wasn't like ICU, but they called it scuba. And I could only hold her for like 20 minutes every, I think it was 4 hours or something. So it was very limited. And with that experience, I was actually able to connect with my daughter again, and that just blossomed ever since then. But yeah, it can be very challenging to the point where they are so reliant on you. You go from being independent to, doing whatever you wanted, traveling, shopping, eating whatever you wanted, and then you give birth to a baby, and yeah, it's full on. It's not light, but it is light. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to, so I'm clear on what you just said as well. So you said that with the scuba process, so you had postpartum depression, which is actually quite a common thing.
Yes.
1 in 5 women will experience that, mums, but also 1 in 10 dads will experience that, which is a mind-blowing statistic, right? So 1 out of every 10 men will experience it, but 1 out of every 5 will experience it as mums. Was it in that time that you were separated, right, that you grew that bond with your child?
Oh, definitely.
Is that what you were saying?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I understand that. I get that. I mean, something that my mum would always tell me when I was going through a long distance relationship with my now wife, a girlfriend at the time. My mum would always remind me, like, the heart grows fonder when you're apart from each other.
Yes.
Right? Because you're learning to appreciate and lean into that gratitude and love that is already there. But it's almost like you're allowing yourself to grieve that old identity of yourself, right?
Yes. 100%.
And that, I mean, after interviewing a lot of mums on this show and talking about their experiences of motherhood and things like that, when it was called How Are You Really Mum, I spoke with one of my friends, even just this week. And, they've just had a baby, very young, just a couple of months old now. And they went through C-section experience. And I remember interviewing Cora on the show.
Beautiful name.
Who her purpose is helping C-section mamas like reconnect to themselves, because that journey of like grief and the process that your body's just gone through, I can imagine that it wouldn't feel safe to reconnect with your body after you've gone through a surgery like that. Right? Especially around the womb. If we think about that from an energetic, spiritual perspective, that's your identity, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And feeling unsafe to connect with that, like that's painful. So I appreciate that you said that, because I think those listeners and those viewers tuning in right now, they can really resonate, like allowing themselves the space,
Mm-hmm.
giving themselves the time. And one of the suggestions I gave my friend was, us as men, us as husbands, us as partners, which is not always, male and female in that sense when you're bringing a baby into the world. I get that. But if you need time and space, you got to let your partner know that you need time and space, because they want to support you. Right. And I know that was sort of forced on you, Zolita. So it's kind of like a roundabout way of like saying thank you for giving me that little bit of wisdom, I suppose, that you've lived through in that experience. But yeah, do you have anything to add to that? Because I know that it's been a powerfully transformative journey for you.
So obviously with postpartum depression and babies, some situations are different to others. So some actually go into motherhood being a single parent from get-go, or they can have a very loving, supporting partner, or they can have a not so much supporting partner, which is what I unfortunately had. And so what I just want to express largely to the followers and the listeners is that if you have experienced, postpartum depression, be kind to yourself. You've gone through so much. Like, not only are you pregnant for 9 to 10 months, your body's changing. You're either getting larger, you got stretch marks, you eat less or you eat more. So I also struggle with hyperemesis gravidum, I think it's called, where you constantly spew throughout the whole entire pregnancy. So I struggled really bad.
Goodness.
It was
That's
awful.
awful. Yeah.
So that was just another tackle to, everything else. So, just be kind to yourself. And if you are going through situations like these, even if you have just one person, reach out because you are loved, you are cared for, you are important. And at the end of the day, you are an inspiration. You are guiding a new life that you've brought into the world. So, yeah, be kind to yourself, love yourself, and reach out. Don't hesitate.
That's really, really powerful and wise. And I think it's almost like connecting with family, but it doesn't have to be, your blood relatives.
Yes.
It's like people that you feel that deep connection, the people that ground you, the people that call you out when you know that they're right.
Yep.
The people who can love you truthfully, almost unconditionally, and just be that support that.
Yeah. Yep. 100%. Because not everyone has family either. So if you don't have family, don't fret, because sometimes water is thicker than blood, and family is what you make it.
Yeah, that's also very wise. I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
That's okay.
So, how old is your oldest child now?
She's 10. She's turning 11 next month.
Wow.
I know.
Wow. So your youngest and oldest, what's the age difference?
5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, between the eldest and the youngest.
So what's their ages respectively?
10, 6, and 5.
10, 6, and 5. Okay. So youngest is 5. What has happened in the last 5 years? I mean, since the last one has sort of come out, what have you allowed yourself?
I have allowed myself. So I used to be OCD, really bad.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I got to a point where, kids are kids. They will make mess. They will play with their toys. They'll put food everywhere. I had to learn to let that go and, adjust. So, yeah, that was a bit of a challenge for me because, obviously I've been clean my whole life. And then to me, if my house or if my environment isn't clean, it kind of clutters up here and I feel like I can't function. But regarding that, I've actually been able to step back to thinking, okay, well, what's different to now compared to then? So, okay, I've got 3 kids now. I've got I have to change my perspective, and I've had to change my perspective for majority of, my job as a mother. Because each kid's different, very different.
Yeah.
Each child will experience different barriers, different hurdles, emotions, thoughts. So it's just trying to have an understanding and a perspective. That's probably been the challenge for me with all three of my kids. It's just understanding each child from a different perspective and not, mothering as the one thing. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to ask a question on that. How much of it, I suppose, comes back to not managing each individual child, but actually managing yourself
Oh, it's hard.
through that, right? But I guess when you're managing yourself, you can kind of just be with the kid who's different, right? You don't have to fix them, is what I'm kind of asking in a
You've got
way,
to
right?
appreciate your child because there's nothing to fix.
Yes, yeah.
So our children are our biggest teachers,
Greatest
100%.
teachers.
Like, I thought I was teaching my kids, but no, my kids are teaching me. They've taught me patience. They've taught me more wisdom. They've taught me unconditional love. They've taught me what it's like to be a kid again. Because as a child, I grew up way too quick. So I watch my kids and it's like, whoa, 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 but I love it. It's amazing. It's inspiring that they are so full of love and life, and they're just happy little munchkins, or they could be little gremlins at times. Depends on the day. And that's fine too.
Yeah, and that's kind of the point, is like you're going with the ebbs and flows, the chaos, so to speak, right?
Yep.
And it is challenging, right? Because you're gonna also play in whatever they're playing in. So if they're bringing a lot of negativity and darkness, so to speak, and being overly chaotic, and it's causing you mayhem, right? You're going to be playing that game of frustration within yourself.
Yeah.
And possibly even worse, like getting into panic mode and survival mode. But we've got to remember that they're only moments, right? It comes back to how we manage ourselves in those chaotic moments.
Understood. Yes, 100%. So obviously in chaotic moments, again, it's about a perspective, and it's about just taking that deep breath. I think for me as a parent, the biggest thing for me is just understanding the different levels.
What do you mean by that?
So obviously each child is at different understanding, different thoughts, feelings. So my eldest is quite in tuned, very in tuned for her age. So I need to make sure that I can help her in a spiritual aspect, because she is very spiritual. She has a very on point intuition as well. So different levels for different things. So for instance, all my kids have ADHD, and my youngest is possibly on the autistic spectrum disorder. So you can imagine that my house is quite full on sometimes. Which is great, but it can be, like you said, we can envelop in the chaos ourselves if we don't manage ourselves. The important part is, for me, is when I do go through those meltdowns, is to step away and have some time out, because you don't want to react. You want to be able to, what's the word? It's not, is it, you don't want to react.
Respond.
You want to respond. That's perfect. Thank you. So yeah, I take my steps out. I wait until I'm ready. I do our breath work, and I come back when I'm ready, and, I'll sit them down. I'll go through the conversations with them, and we'll both let it all out. So just trying to get them to understand how important communication is as well, and expressing themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any, stories or examples where maybe there was just absolute chaos? Like one kid was just grabbing the other kid and just I don't know.
Yeah. So, okay, so there's been, my youngest one had a toy, and the middle one wanted to play with it, but then the little one saw it and tried to take it off her. So it ended up like a slapping fest. Not fully, but it was getting to the point where, okay, mum's got to step in. But then the eldest also tried to jump in, trying to break them apart. So you've got a referee, and then it's just weird how, because there's three, it's just weird. But the oldest one is like a parent. She'll step in between the two, but then she'll also kind of play the team. So I'm just trying to think of a good example. Lip balm. Over lip balm.
Mm-hmm.
Or the fact that they looked at each other and they're in an off mood. Like that just can send them into a massive AWOL, and they just go off their nannies. And then it's a shit show. Just because they looked at each other.
And how do you regulate? Let's go look at this two ways, right? So there's one is like regulating the situation so that no one gets hurt.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that look like from your perspective of calming the chaos?
There's been a couple of times where I said, all right, kids, deep breaths. Let's do it together. And then we just try and, get in there and, just release. Because when you're in that moment, you're caught up in the energies and the emotions of it all. And it's like, oh, everyone, breathe. And it's like, oh, okay. So my youngest is really good for this. She loves it. She'll even remind me to do my breath work when, she notices that I'm getting a bit heightened. So that's one thing.
That's so cool.
Be loud and proud. No. The second thing is to try and turn it into a game. And I know some parents will say, but I'm exhausted. And yeah, I get that too. Especially when they're constantly at each other, it can be exhausting. It can drain your energy because you're trying to help all three kids, become at ease and become calm. And then you've got yourself to try and worry about as well. And you don't want to push it off onto the kids. And so, yeah, it's just trying to make a game out of it and make it fun. Instead of saying, oh, she's looking at me, be like, what's going on? You know what I mean? Like, try and turn it into something funny where it makes them switch and they're like, and then they start laughing and it lightens the mood a bit. So when you can be a bit funny or a bit dorky, they love it. Or
playfulness.
Yeah.
Playfulness. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's changing the vibe up. And other times, if none of that works, then obviously you have to kind of separate each three into different rooms for like a minute.
Quiet time.
Yeah.
An appreciation of each other, right?
Yeah.
They've got to be in their own, let's say, see their own problem. That's not a problem outside of themselves. It's a problem within themselves.
I don't think they think that. I think for them.
No, they certainly wouldn't think it, but
Not
it's
yet.
more just letting it resolve within themselves, right?
Yeah.
Because then they find a quiet place that they can go to.
And they can emotionally regulate and be in their own space again. Yeah.
Absolutely. I love those as strategies because you're making it fun. You're using like tried and tested practices that you use to regulate yourself, right?
Yep.
And so that's sort of allowing them to know the power of it too. Like mum's not just saying stuff, she's actually embodying it. That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
But bringing that level of playfulness back into the game, right? This is a game.
Because us parents forget so much. We
take it way too seriously.
We do. 100%. 100%.
And I guess that's the point of this, the relaunch of the podcast is really the Rawsome Parent. Like, understand you can be raw, you can be true. You don't have to be absolutely serious.
Yes.
You can have fun. I mean, that's been my greatest, I guess, teaching from my little one too.
Yeah.
Is like what you said earlier, you get to be a kid again. What does that mean? To me, it means like you get to be actively playful again.
Yep.
Right? You don't have to be as serious, and they're reacting, they're responding to how you're being playful. And I think that response from them is really just your nervous system saying thank you.
Yeah.
Like, thank you for unwinding all of this conditioned bullcrap that you've taken on for your whole life.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's so powerful.
Thank you.
So thank you for sharing that. And I'd love to go a little bit further with this and just in terms of the personality differences, right? So you're handling different levels, like you mentioned before. How do you know what to speak and what to say with each kid, knowing that there are different levels?
It's not to say that I don't mess up, because no parent's perfect. I will admit there has been times where I've messed up and there's probably some things that I probably shouldn't have said. It's all learning experiences. But with each kid, so the eldest, sorry, can you just repeat that one? I started channeling in and then I lost it.
No, it's okay. So when you're dealing with the differences of personalities, the difference of beings, right?
Yeah.
Your kids, how do you know what to say, what to tell them, how to be in those situations, right?
So for
those
me,
really logical mamas out there, the ones that are like, I need a plan, I need all the information, I need to follow the plan.
I don't really have a plan, but so I listen to my intuition a
Yes.
lot. So for those who don't know me, I am a very spiritual person. And you can feel, you can see within each kid when they're experiencing something, when they're not 100%, when they need you, when they want their space. Like for me, it's about listening to my intuition and understanding each child. So for me, I'm able to pretty much look into their eyes, and it's kind of like I can see their own story of what's bothering them at that point. And so I'll either try and sit them down, and if they're not ready to talk to me, that's okay. I let them know that I'm there, and then they'll eventually come back, when they're ready to explain or to express what they're going through. But at that point of time, they kind of just need to know that someone's there, have that time to think about what it is that they're struggling with, and then they know that, yeah, mum's there at the end of the day. So, yeah. It's honing into your intuition.
Yeah, learning to trust yourself and back yourself, right?
Yeah.
Because I'd love to ask the question, how many people have tried to give you advice and like said, you're doing it wrong, you need to do it like this in your journey of being a parent?
Not that many, but in saying that, I've kind of been on my own a lot as well.
Yeah.
So, like I said earlier, like I don't have much family and stuff like that. So I've kind of just embodied it myself.
Yeah.
And I do hear stories of other mums getting, oh, you're doing this wrong, doing that wrong. My advice is, you're the parent, you know your child best. Someone's always going to judge you. It's okay for other people to have their opinion, but it's not our problem. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, don't worry about what other people say. People judge you and they do it differently, or they make healthy meals all the time, or whatever. Cool, that's okay.
Yeah, I think it maybe a little bit of a summary. I've just read it on this piece of paper that's in front of me. Comparison creates confusion.
It does. And then you're second guessing yourself all the time. Am I doing this right? Am I a good parent? Am I loving my children the right way? Am I giving them everything that they need? Reality is that, yeah, you are. Majority of the time, yes, you are. You have to be there and present and just show up love. And that's pretty much all that kids really, really wish to have,
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And, if you're constantly seeking that validation or someone to say something to you that will make you feel worthy or lose that doubt within you,
Yeah.
it's not going to happen, because it's going to lead to more and more and more confusion.
Yeah.
Which confusion can be a good thing, right? It's a great thing if you let it be confusion.
Yeah.
But if you're against confusion, you need to know, right? So you need someone to say that, you're being a good mum or being a good dad.
Yeah.
You're looking in the wrong place.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it doesn't
So
matter.
that's why, it doesn't matter. But
No.
it's like, I love that you've embodied it so much, because you've just learned through your experience. And I think it probably comes back to that, separation, because you didn't have that strong connection with your firstborn.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like
Or with my
that
mum as
time to
well.
process. And
Yeah.
you would have been processing your grief as well, as like going not only to have this kid, but that attachment to your mum as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Right. So giving yourself permission and space to allow it to grow, and allow yourself to cultivate
Yeah.
that trust within yourself. That's huge.
Thank you.
So great work. You're doing a rawsome job. I really, really love it.
Oh, thank you.
Lastly, before we finish up today's episode, what I would really love, and I think we've pretty much already done it, but I want to hear it from you.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to maybe the girl who found out that she's got, endometriosis, and she needs to have kids soon, before the kids came.
Yep.
What kind of wisdom would you impart to that past version of yourself, knowing what you know now?
As in, like, what would my advice be if the doctors told you that you had endometriosis?
So looking back at yourself in that moment where you were told you need to have kids soon, otherwise you're not going to be able to have kids, right? And knowing all of the stuff that you've gone through.
Yep.
What would you tell that younger version of yourself to give them a sense of whatever it is that you've learned now?
My best advice would be is use love as the main base of your universe, if that makes sense. So love yourself through all the trials and tribulations, and love yourself regardless of when you do become a parent. There is going to be downfalls. There's going to be a lot of learning things that you're going to really feel shit about, but it's just about accepting and embracing change, differences, and enveloping that with love, like just being soft and gentle, and know that we are here we're here for, sorry, that was a confirmation. We just got mail coming in. So my best advice is, envelop love as your main base, because without love, one, you don't love yourself enough. When we don't love ourselves, we can't fully love others around us, especially our children, because we're going to be faced with a lot of things that may trigger us. So whenever it comes to any situation, good or bad, just use love.
Yeah, that's really powerful and quite profound, because it starts right there.
Yeah.
Being that loving awareness.
Yeah.
No matter if you feel it or not, just be it.
Yes.
Much easier said than done.
It is.
But that is exactly why we do what we do. So I'd love to give you just a minute just to share with everyone how people can...
Sorry.
You're right. Just to share how everyone can get in contact and connect with you.
Yeah.
What's the best way to do that?
So the best way to do that is I do have a business page called Mystical Phoenix that is on Facebook and Instagram. Or I do have a email, which is mysticalphoenix88@hotmail.com.
We'll link those ones in the show notes. So great to have you on the show. And
Thank
just
you.
a reminder to all the Rawsome parents, or the want-to-be Rawsome parents out there. And we're building a community of Rawsome parents. And if you want to be part of it, please link into our community of Rawsome parents. So it's just a Facebook group. It's free. It's just a collaborative community of people supporting each other on their journey to become Rawsome parents. So love for you to be
Love
part of it. And yeah, let's change the world one parent at a time.
Yes.
Thanks so much for listening.
Thank you, guys.
See you next time, guys.
See ya.
Bye. Thanks for tuning in to Rawsome Parents, where we keep it raw, real, and awesome. If you loved this episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. Your support helps us reach more parents just like you. And hey, remember, parenting is a wild ride, but you're never in it alone. If you need more support or just want to connect, find me on social media, LinkedIn, Facebook and Instagram at the Shaun Tucker. Until next time, stay raw, stay awesome, and keep leading with love. See you soon.